What kind of rapper loses an entire album because he left the only copy after a wild night out and still walks back into the game like nothing happened? That's not urban legend, that's Lloyd Banks. The same kid who got hit twice the night before September 11th woke up in a hospital to the world on fire and decided, yeah, I'm still dropping bars. People swear he vanished because the industry moved on. Cute theory. The truth? The chaos never left him. Leaks, legal dust-ups, money drama rumors, promoter beefs in Canada, and a G-Unit fracture that had fans whispering about jealousy, blackballing, and who really wanted him off the board. And yet, every time they counted him out, he slid back with a mixtape, a hook, a feature, a tour date. So here's the question nobody wants to answer. Did Banks quietly sabotage his own prime? Or did the machine do what the machine always does when a lyricist won't play pet? By the end of this video, you'll know why that infamous leak wasn't the mistake. It was the map. And once you see the map, the rise, the fall, the rebrand, and the money trail make way too much sense. Let's talk Banks, unfiltered. Before the leaks, the feuds, and the industry whisper campaigns, there was just a quiet kid from South Jamaica, Queens, with too much noise in his head to keep it to himself. Government name, Christopher Charles Lloyd. Born April 30th, 1982, first breath in Baltimore. Real growing up done in Queens, where the trains rattle your windows and the block teaches faster than any classroom. Dad wasn't around. Mom Rosa was. Her rule was simple. Don't be like him. Banks heard that on loop. He tried school, tried fitting the mold, but that mold didn't fit. At 16, he tapped out, not because he couldn't hang, but because his pen was going places a homeroom desk couldn't. Queens is funny like that. One corner store away from destiny, he linked back up with neighborhood legends in progress, 50 and Yayo, 3 kids, 1 chip on 3 shoulders. They sharpened each other in basements, back rooms, and car rides, turning punchlines into armor and cadences into a calling card. When 50 broke the door off its hinges and signed the big deal, Banks wasn't just tagging along, he was the cold verse that made the hook hit harder. G-Unit formed, the streets went quiet to listen, and for a minute it felt like the city had one heartbeat. Then the spotlight swung directly at him. Beg for Mercy stamped the brand. The Hunger for More stamped the man. On Fire wasn't a single, it was a siren. Banks's voice had that calm menace, the kind that makes you believe he's not trying to be the best. He just is. Billboard didn't argue. First week numbers popped. Platinum plaques followed. And suddenly the kid who grew up walking to the store for his mom was running laps around the industry without breaking a sweat. But here's where it gets delicious. When everyone thought the fairy tale would just float on, the cracks started to show. Not talent cracks, life cracks. Decisions. Friends becoming bosses. Bosses becoming gatekeepers. The kind of pressure that makes even a golden run feel heavier than a brick in your pocket. And the next thing that happened, that you won't believe this leak that turned a victory lap into a maze. Because the rise was clean. The next chapter, anything but. The big album leak and night out drama. This is the moment the legend turns messy. Picture Banks at the peak. Ice cold flow, platinum resume, the kind of confidence you can hear before the beat drops. And in the middle of that momentum, he's cooking a follow-up with a cocky title, The Big Withdraw. Not just a project, his statement. He's got the verses, the features, the beats, and allegedly one single master copy. Because when you're winning, you start believing nothing can go left. Then it goes left. One late night turns into a late night story. 2 women, a good time, and a studio bag that should have been handcuffed to his wrist. Sunrise hits, and the bag doesn't. Within days, the tracks appear online like somebody hit publish on his future. Full leak. Not snippets, not a teaser. The whole thing. The internet eats, the label fumes, the fans argue about whether it was sabotage, carelessness, or somebody trying to make a name off a trophy they didn't earn. And Banks, he does the most Banks thing possible, shrugs through the disaster with that calm, unimpressed face and pivots. Publicly, he jokes about needing to stick with one woman. Privately, the cost is brutal. Months of work vaporized, a rollout dead on arrival. The trust circle suddenly looks like a question mark. Labels hate unpredictability. Managers hate mopping up. Accountants really hate leaks. That's the kind of L you can't spin with a tweet. But here's the real damage people miss. Not just the lost songs, the lost timing. Hip-hop moves on fast. Momentum is a jealous thing. While he's regrouping, competitors drop. Radio cycles shift. Playlists reshuffle. By the time Rotten Apple arrives, the buzz is there, but the bite is softer. Critics call it a step down. Fans call it solid. The suits call it not the first one. Translation: the leak didn't end him, it dulled the edge. Still, if you think that was the nail, you don't know Banks. That leak becomes a map of pressure points. Who's really in your corner? Who's watching your pockets? Who's whispering in rooms you're not in? And once you see that map, you start noticing the other landmines waiting. Police lights in Manhattan, a promoter brawl in Canada, and a G-Unit split that turns brotherhood into battle lines. Because the album wasn't the only thing that got taken that night. Security got taken, patience got taken, and the clean arc of a fairy tale career? Yeah, that got snatched too. Next up, when the cops, the courts, and the crew drama arrive at the same time, and how a calm rapper ends up in the loudest headlines. Legal troubles and gun charges. Here's where the headlines start writing themselves. Picture it: Manhattan traffic light, 2005. Banks, young buck, a van, and the kind of night where everybody's a little too confident. They roll the red, the sirens pop, and suddenly the vibe goes from mixtape victory lap to license and registration. Officers search, find what they're not supposed to find, and just like that, boom, gun talk in every blog header the next morning. Lawyers get called, statements get careful, and months later, the big reveal: charges dropped. Technically clean, publicly messy. Because even when you beat the case, the Google results don't forget. And as if New York didn't give him enough stress, Canada tried to out-drama the drama. 2010, a promoter dispute turns from "where's the rest of the money?" into "why are there handcuffs?" Fast. Accusations fly. Aggravated this, confinement that, the kind of list that makes publicists reach for herbal tea. Bail set, cameras flashing, the whole nine. Then time does what time does. Witnesses cool off, lawyers negotiate, the noise fades. But the stain, it lingers. Fans love a redemption arc, but sponsors love a risk assessment. You can win in court and still lose in conference rooms. But let's not pretend he was ever soft. Go back to September 10th, 2001. He's leaving a Queens nightclub, hears pops and hits by instinct. 2 bullets land, back and stomach. He runs himself to the hospital, wakes up to a TV showing the Twin Towers on fire. That's trauma stacked on top of trauma. You don't walk away from that the same. He didn't. The calm in his voice? It's not an act. It's a survival mechanism. Add in the slow burn tension inside the crew. When G-Unit went from family to franchise, every decision started to feel like a scoreboard. Features, budgets, tour slots. Suddenly it's business math, not brotherhood. The game breaks away and starts broadcasting smoke. The blogs stir the pot. Fans pick teams. Banks, unbothered on the surface, keep stacking verses like sandbags. But everyone can feel it. The room is colder now. A joke in the studio lands different. A missed call feels like strategy. That leak we just talked about, it didn't just cost songs, it cost confidence. In rap, that's currency. And this is the paradox. The more drama swirled around him, police lights, legal filings, whispers about jealousy, the more he leaned into being still. No rants, no meltdowns, just an ice-packed delivery over beats that sounded like concrete floors at 3 a.m. It's why his fans ride for him. It's also why the industry never knew where to place him. You can market loud, you can't quite control quiet. So where do you go after the courts calm down and the crew splits the check down the middle? If you're Banks, you bet on the one thing that never sues you, never leaks on you, and never asks for a writer: the pen. Next, how he turned the chaos into a blueprint and came back with a trilogy that sounded like a late-night confession in a locked studio. Survival, betrayal, and turning points. If the leak and the lawsuits didn't test him enough, betrayal would finish the lesson. See, Banks came from a time when crew meant something. Loyalty, bloodline, shared hustle. But once the G-Unit logo started printing money, it became a corporation, not a family. The game went rogue, 50 went global, and Banks? He became the mystery man, still in the circle, but not always in the picture. Fans started whispering, "Is he out?" While blogs whispered louder. Or was he pushed? Inside sources claimed jealousy brewed between the 2 biggest pens in the unit. Banks was lyrical ice. 50 was commercial fire. And sometimes, fire doesn't warm ice. It melts it. Rumors spread that 50 didn't like how Banks kept his distance, skipped interviews, or refused to chase clout. 50 even went public once, calling him lazy. Banks clapped back the quiet way, by dropping verses sharp enough to bleed paper. Still, the damage was done. The mentor-student dynamic turned into a weird Cold War. Subtle shade in interviews, silence at shows, missed calls that everyone noticed. Then life hit from every other direction. His father passed. His closest friends got locked. The industry pivoted to trends he didn't care to chase. Auto-tune, dances, hooks over bars, and Banks, he doubled down on writing. To him, survival wasn't about adapting to the new wave. It was about refusing to drown in it. He went underground, but not broke. Independent mixtapes, loyal fan base, no label chains. He built a quiet empire in the shadows. That silence confused people. To outsiders, it looked like he'd disappeared. To those watching closely, it looked like strategy. He was rebuilding on his own time, far away from the noise that nearly killed his run the first time. He once said, "I never left the game left me." And that's exactly how he moved. Patient, surgical, calculating. By the time the G-Unit brand fizzled out, Banks had already done something smarter, detached without detonating. He didn't need the headlines anymore. He needed control. Every verse became therapy, every bar a record of everything he lost and learned. That's why his comeback didn't feel like nostalgia. It felt like revenge disguised as resilience. Because while everyone else was chasing relevancy, Banks was out here proving something deeper. You can't cancel a man who's already made peace with being underrated. Later comebacks and current projects. When the headlines got bored, Banks got busy. No confetti, no I'm back press run, just bars. In 2021, he cracked the silence with The Course of the Inevitable. Grown man rap with scar tissue and receipts. It wasn't chasing playlists. It was writing by flashlight, diary pages over steel drums. 2022, he doubled down with COTI 2, and by 2023, he stamped it with COTI 3. Pieces of My Pain. Trilogy energy. Each one colder, tighter, more personal, like he finally gave the mic all the stories he'd been keeping in airplane mode. The sound, no gimmicks, no viral bait, just that patient menace he made famous. Punchlines that don't wave their hands, they whisper in your ear and let you connect the cuts. Features came correct too. Nothing cloudy, all chemistry. Think less label mixer. More family dinner where everyone can rap. And because he's Banks, he kept it moving off wax. A little acting here, a cameo there, merch capsules that don't scream for attention. He's the opposite of a rollout. He's a routine. Studio, stage, repeat. The touring stayed real, the room stayed loyal. He's not chasing arenas. He's headlining nights where every bar gets a nod from the back row. Then the birthday flex, April 30th, 2025. While regular people blow candles, he drops a fresh tape to remind you he's not retired, just selective. 18 tracks of pressure points, the kind of tape that makes longtime fans smirk like, yep, that guy. It's not about chart fireworks anymore, it's about control. Release when ready, vanish when finished. That's a power move most artists never earn. If there's a current project, it's the project of himself. Building a catalog that ages well without aging out, running an independent rhythm where he owns the pace. In a game obsessed with noise, Banks made quiet the flex, and somehow, the quiet got loud again. Next up, we line up the numbers and the narrative, the net worth, the legacy, and what he'll actually be remembered for when the rumor dust settles. Net worth, legacy, and what he'll be remembered for. Let's talk numbers, then talk noise. On paper, Banks sits around the $9 million mark. Money built the old-fashioned way. Platinum runs, touring, features that aged well, indie checks that clear, and a catalog that still spins when the trends don't. No flashy, I bought a planet headlines, just steady deposits from a career that refused to beg for relevance. But legacy isn't a calculator, it's a fingerprint. Banks's is ice cold and unmistakable. He's the guy who made punchlines feel like pressure. No theatrics, just surgical wording that lands 2 seconds after you laughed at the first bar. He put calm menace on the map. The hunger for more didn't just go number one. It told the industry a quiet rapper with a brick wall delivery could still move mountains. On Fire became a time capsule. Beamer, Benz, or Bentley proved he could run radio without watering down a single vowel. The plaques are receipts. So is that 2005 Grammy nod. He'll be remembered for surviving without switching. Shot the night before September 11th, leaked his own momentum into the wild, fought through legal storms, watched a brotherhood turn corporate, and still came back with a trilogy, COTI 1, 2, 3, that sounded like a private diary, written in permanent marker. That's not nostalgia. That's longevity with a spine. And here's the twist most people miss. Banks didn't chase the algorithm. He trained his audience. He proved you can step away, rebuild in the dark, and return with hunger that doesn't look thirsty. In an era where everyone yells, his legacy is volume control. Say less, mean more, last longer. Tragedy? Not his ending. He's alive, active, and aging like someone who bet on penmanship over pyrotechnics. No sensational final chapter to sell you here. Just a working legend with a cult that keeps cashing out on show nights and a pen that never retired. So what sticks to his name? The voice. Low, unhurried, unbothered. The bars. Layered punchlines that reveal themselves on the third listen. The lore, the great album leak, the court smoke, the quiet exits and quieter returns. The currency, respect from rappers who actually write. If you strip the rumor mill and mute the blogs, the story holds. Lloyd Banks is what happens when discipline outlives drama. And that sets up the last question perfectly. Was he a legend hiding in plain sight, or a cautionary tale dressed as discipline? Let's close it out. So here's the thing. Lloyd Banks was never the loudest, never the flashiest, and definitely never the easiest to figure out. But that's exactly why his story hits different. In an era where most rappers chase relevance like rent's due tomorrow, Banks built a career on silence with substance. The leaks, the legal heat, the feuds, the vanishing acts, they weren't plot twists, they were pressure tests. Every time he got counted out, he came back with another verse like, "Still here, still colder than your favorite." He didn't need a rebrand or a reinvention. He just needed a reason. The truth is, Lloyd Banks didn't fade. He refined. The industry moved to TikToks and trends, and he moved to ownership and legacy. He's not trying to be everyone's favorite rapper anymore. He's trying to be every rapper's favorite rapper. And judging by the pen, mission accomplished. So when people ask, whatever happened to Lloyd Banks? You can tell them nothing happened to him. He just stopped performing for people who weren't listening, and that's the real flex.